Like most creative people, I'm guilty of wanting creativity to happen on a schedule. I know I'm a morning person, so I plan my most difficult activities to happen in the morning. That way, I'm able to get that done and to focus on the less important things as the day progresses and my energy levels change. But sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes you have to start before you're ready, and that's what I've learned to do. My name is Silas Ombayu. I'm a product designer, a content creator, and a data nerd. Welcome to the show. The Bible in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 14 says, "If you wait until the wind and the weather are just right, you will never plant anything and never harvest anything." So, to start before you're ready, one thing I do for myself personally is that I charge my tab before going to bed every night. Now, you might ask, why do I have to charge my tab before going to bed every night? That's because in my tab is where I do my morning notes. So if you've been on the show before, I have spoken a little bit about some of my habits, one of which is morning notes. It's very important for me in the morning to wake up and to set the day right, to set myself up for success, to say the things that I want to happen in my day, to talk about how I am healthy, how I am confident, how I am whole, how I am secure, how I am created and I would achieve all that I was created to be. And because this is very important for me, I charge my tab the night before so that when I wake up in the morning, I have no excuses. I don't have the excuse of the battery on my tab is low, so I can't do it this morning. And because that's very important to me, I would do it the night before. I would prime myself the night before to set myself up for success. And another way to prime yourself is to do a to-do list the night before. Before you go to bed, you determine what's the most important thing you want to do tomorrow. You write the one thing down, and then you write your maintenance activities. What are some of the things that you've been putting off for a while but are really important for you to do? You could also write that down, and then you could write some short tasks that you want to do. So things that wouldn't take as much time but really need to be done. It could be an admin task, replying an email, talking to a client, following up on a contract that you're chasing. All of these things, if you write them down the night before you go to bed, then you go to bed, relaxed, and knowing that the next day these are the things that you're going to do. You wake up you wake up motivated, you wake up feeling equipped and empowered to actually go and accomplish what you want to do. Habit priming could happen in different ways for different unique situations. If a person is a painter, for example, and they want to tomorrow do like a painting, they might bring out their canvas, set everything up in their studio, and make sure that the next day they'll be ready to and focused and prepared to go ahead and to do what they need to do. So priming yourself for what you want to do the next day is one way that you can ensure that you start before you're ready. If you don't already know, I am a content creator and I write for Mindful Living. And writing is a very interesting process, and I really do enjoy writing. But writing can be a very lengthy process also. It involves a lot of research, it involves reading sometimes really thick abstract papers and noting down fine prints so that I can create the final article. And this process, as interesting as it is, can be also lengthy and hectic and tedious. So what I do to make it easy for myself is to create a succinct draft. Now, in the writing community, some people call it a shitty first draft, and that's creating something you're not entirely proud of the first time, but you realize that you're just synchronizing information at that time. You're putting down the knowledge you've learned so that you can then eventually edit it. So what I do to make writing easy for myself is, after I have done all my writing, my writing on paper, I take a step outside the door. And when I come back with fresh eyes, and I think about it more as an editor, as someone who's editing something that has already been written. It makes it easy for me to get into the process of writing after I have done my succinct first draft. And in my design process also, I have, the design process has a couple of steps, and I try to follow those steps because it makes it easy for me to get to the final visual design. Now, as a designer, what you want to, your output is always going to be like visuals and a UI, that is usable for the end user, and that the end user cherishes and get the aha moment in the end. But it can be tempting for me to think, why not just go straight to the visual design? I have already done some screenshots. Why not just go straight to the visual design? As tempting as that is, I don't do it. So the succinct draft for my design process is to first do my sketch on paper. So my wireframing process starts with my sketch on paper. I draw out how I imagine the experience would play out, and then I do the wireframe in my design tool before going to the final visual design. That process is creating a succinct draft, is creating a shitty first draft, something I'm not necessarily proud of, something that might not make it into the visual design, but makes it easy for me to get to the visual design in the end. So a succinct draft, whatever your design process is, if you're a painter, for example, you know for a fact that the first stroke of the brush on the canvas is not the final design, but that it is you're going to do more before it gets to the finished product. And embracing that process would relieve you of the perfectionism, of that mindset that it has to be perfect as soon as you start. So whatever your creative process is, as a creator, as a student, as a professional, embrace the succinct draft, because the succinct draft is what gets you to the finished product in the end. Another thing I do to start before I'm ready is that I own my labels. I now know that I am an insecure overachiever, and I'm prone to perfectionism, to not being satisfied with anything that I do, always thinking that it can be better. I'm also prone to self-doubt, to doubting my abilities, to doubting my talents, my creativity, my gifts, my calling. Now I understand that it is just who I am, and there's always going to be that part of me, but it doesn't have to stop me from creating. And owning my label in this way also allows me to self-reflect. I'm able to relax because I know I'm prone to just going and going and going. I'm able to see when I'm getting to the red zone and to take a break and to boost my mood so that I can come back to my task and be more productive. I was working on a project in the past where because it was such an important project for the company, I felt the need to keep pushing and to keep going and to keep going. Even when I was close to burnout, and I could tell I was close to burnout, I felt like because the team needed me, I had to keep going. And that in the end didn't benefit anybody. I got pulled from the project, and all of that stuff happened. So, now because I know I'm an insecure overachiever, I'm able to take regular breaks to boost my mood. And when I need to do that, I don't wait for anybody to come and tell me, oh, Silas, it's time to take a break now. So I just go ahead and take the breaks that I need and to boost my mood, so that, because I know that when I do that and I come back, I would be even more productive. Another thing I do is to celebrate my small wins, because I know I'm prone to not being satisfied with my accomplishments. I try to celebrate my small wins very, very often. So if I have done user stories or I have done storyboarding, for example, I would take a break, and reflect on what I have just done and just enjoy the process more of creating what would eventually be the final visual design. But that's only possible because I have owned my labels. I'm now able to, reflect on this creative process, and in that journey of reflecting on the creative progress I've done, I'm able to even be more creative in the things that I actually do. Like when I'm sitting down to actually do the work, I'm actually like productive and creative, and the best of myself comes out in my craft and in my work and in whatever I'm doing, whether it's writing, whether it's like creating content, or whether it's just nerding out on data. So just start before you're ready, and like we said, prime yourself for it. If you know you have something really important to do the next day, then you prime yourself the night before. If you're a painter, for example, you could bring out your canvas and set it up. If you have like a task that you need to do, an admin task that has been pending for a really long time, and the sooner you do it, the better you're able to be productive. Then you go ahead and you prime yourself to do that. The second thing, like I said, is the succinct draft. Every process, every creative process should have a succinct draft. If you're not a writer, you might not need a shitty first draft, but whatever your process is, embrace the shitty first draft, because that is the journey to going to the final visual design. And also own your labels. If you wait for somebody else to come and tell you who you are and what you're capable of, then you'd keep waiting for them to tell you, to give you a to do, But if you're an owner, if you're in charge, if you're a victor, if your mindset is that of victory, then you'd always do the things that are really like important for you, and that is a part of owning your labels. So just start before you're ready, and that's how to create the conditions for creativity to flourish. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Bye.